Hi, and welcome to Fragments of Rock. Fancy a few chippings? What happened was, I was looking through my record collection with my son Mark, and I was pulling out albums, and all the time I kept coming up with anecdotes. So what did you say, Mark?
So there's some really interesting stories behind those, and we need to share them, really. You know, how did the police end up at Rushcliffe Leisure Centre, a local leisure centre in Nottingham, for instance?
And it was in 1979 as well. Police had been on the road, well, it started off about 1977. So why were they at Rushcliffe? The answer is the Cramps, and that's one of my favourite albums. Where is it? Over here. Songs the Lord Taught Us. Now, the punk generation music was just about dying in this country, but in America there was a resurgence in New York in 1979, and the Cramps were at the front of that. Here they were, arriving in Britain on tour, but no one had heard of them really, apart from the real hardened punk enthusiasts.
And they must have had some kind of reputation. They look pretty scared, well, look pretty threatening individuals. Were you nervous before you met them?
Yeah. Well, here's another one. Look.
Yeah.
Yes, I was. I didn't. What do I ask them?
So I presume that would that have been the time like Grundy had been interviewed by the Sex Pistols? Was that around that time as well?
That was before. That was 77.
Yeah. So that must have been in the back of your mind. You're in the media, looking at the BBC, and people are trying to make the name potentially by being threatened. So it must have created some anxiety.
Yeah, it created anxiety. We did the interview. It went very well. In fact, they were really nice. They're really nice people, not aggressive at all, which is more than we said for their music, which is really far out punk. The other thing was they were appearing at Rushcliffe Leisure Centre along with the police. In fact, I have, courtesy of one of the police websites, I have the poster there. Oh, look, there's the poster. Yeah. They appeared at Rushcliffe Leisure Centre on the 8th of June, 1979. Now, that really played with my brain because I imagined that I just imagined police were a much bigger name by 1979. I mean, after all, they'd already brought out 2 singles. They brought out Roxanne, Can't Stand Losing You.
Yeah, you'd expect that in this day and age, if you've got 2 big hit singles, you'd be playing places like, Nottingham, you'd be looking at playing a place like the Rock City, wouldn't you? Not a local leisure centre.
The key is that those 2 singles, believe it or not, had bombed. And A&M Records had a problem. They had to promote the new Police album. So that album was Outlanders to More. Remember this one?
The one with Roxanne, or was that the one before
that? That's on there, yes.
Yeah.
So they needed to sell this album. They were convinced the Police would do something. Now, where do the Cramps come in? It's actually quite simple and straightforward. The Cramps were on Illegal Records. That's the name of a firm called Illegal Records. And in fact, so were the Police. Their first single's there. It's Fall Out and Nothing Achieving, which was the one that failed. That was the top side. And that's pretty hard punk. Whereas Fall Out was released as A&M's first one. Illegal Records, look at them. And Cramps were on that label as well. So they put the 2 together with a guy called Bobby Henry as well. And they did this thing at Rushcliffe Leisure Centre. Police weren't that big. That's the amazing thing. I assume they were enormous by 79 because in 1979, Outlanders to More came out with Walking on the Moon. But that was in the autumn. This was in the summer.
So the Police were because I'm a big fan of the Police, but I see it as very middle ground music. It's almost said to be describe the Police. Well, I know there's some tracks that are quite out there, but at the time, was it seen as more kind of punky at that time?
They were launched as a punk band, and in fact, if you listen to Nothing Achieving, which you can obviously look on the website, you'll see that it's punky.
Yeah. Well, I think there's tracks like Sally on it as well, which is my favourite, which is kind of almost poetry to music and a bit rude. But there was, but it's almost become a bit. I suppose as music's moved on, it feels less. It feels less, I suppose, punky as in whatever we describe punky as, I suppose. But yeah.
So they mellowed. I don't know who made them mellow, or perhaps Sting wanted to mellow them, or Stuart Coben, I don't know. But they mellowed and very much soon pulled away from punk. Remember, punk was sort of out of fashion. It's only because a new wave band like the Cramps came along to sort of give it a new life. By the way, do give that album a listen. The thing was, it was a very hot night. It was June 1979. It was a hot night. I remember standing in that arena, the Rushcliffe, where they played the sports arena bit there at Rushcliffe School, and it got very hot. And at the end of the night, police ran off the stage and jumped in the swimming pool. That's my final memory. Fully clothed, they dived in the swimming pool.
So where was the stage then? So I know that there was a pool in the middle block of Rushcliffe, yes. And then to the left is the kind of arena where the gymnastics are now. Was it in that kind of theatre, that area there then, offset from the pool?
Yeah. So if you're looking at head on Rushcliffe Arena, Rushcliffe Leisure Centre, it's on the left. Yeah. And the pool's on the left, the stage was on the right. And I don't know how they meandered through, but I remember them diving in the pool.
Yeah, yeah. Eatery bit at the top there. I wonder if they didn't jump off the balcony at all. I'm thinking all rock and roll there about jumping off the balcony.
Kate says they jumped off the balcony, but I can't remember that bit.
There was a balcony that went by the side of the pool where I used to buy my chips with lots of salt and vinegar on. You used to make your eyes mixing with the floor.
In that case, they did.
Yeah. So what? Yeah. So yeah, that was yeah. So it could well have jumped off the balcony at Rushcliffe Leisure Centre into the pool.
Yeah. So that's a nice memory, isn't it? Eh? To have been seen that happen. Because later that year, police were huge. They were walking on the moon, coming out. They had all the hits started coming out.
And the Cramps signed that album, didn't they? That you're holding up.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's signed on the back. And recently, I remember you telling me the Lux Interior Lux Interior autograph was worth quite a few bob. Well, Lux Interior has signed it. He was the lead singer, and sadly he died in the early part of this century. In fact, that's when the band folded, was when he died. When was it? February the 4th, 2009. Sudden and a shock to everyone.
Yeah. And did Rushcliffe Leisure Centre ever get any more kind of just for amateur? Did they have any other big gigs? Was that just a one-off gig? Or was it just
I don't remember them turning up ever. Any other band? I never saw any other bands there. No.
Interesting. Yeah. I wonder if Sting ever still remembers the.
I'd love to ask him. But I found this. I'm wearing this T-shirt. Obviously, the Police. I did find this T-shirt as well.
Is that an original? Is that original T-shirt?
Outlanders to More.
So is that actually from the press release back in the 70s?
Yeah, because in those days they gave you T-shirts to plug the album. You didn't have to pay for them. And this is one before. This is before. This must have been with the tour, because there's the police badge. If you turn it round, it says the police are coming.
Interesting.
Well, they came and they conquered.
Yeah, because that's interesting. It's what about like a band name, isn't it? About the Police. You don't. I know it's kind of a. It's an odd thing to say, but you don't associate with the police, do you? As in the police force. But actually, they've used the badge.
Yes, that's the point. Yes, no.
They've used the badge of the police to do that, haven't they? So it's kind of they played on the force, yes. Rather than. And I don't think that. I mean, they might be wrong, but that I don't know if they played on that. You know, if they sort of decided to mark it away from that as well. Yeah. Don't associate them with that. Okay. Well, that's also really fascinating, and I know this is part of a book that you've got coming out as well. But actually, what would be really good is if anyone's got any comments to make in the comments bit at the bottom of the video, you might be asking Dad some questions as well about any other questions that I haven't asked, because then we can answer them at a later date. I think would be really good. Yeah. So what's the book called, Dad?
This is the BBC Home Service. It goes back to the days of the BBC Home Service, before Radio 4.
And if people are interested, we're going to do some more kind of stories behind the signatures of those fragments of rock.
A splendid idea, dear boy. We'll do that. All right. More fragments of rock.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
All right.